learner. My name is Jerry Johnston.
And my name is Russell Fronk.
We are both at Osaka Seikei University. I want to start this presentation with a bit of a disclaimer, and that is that we proposed this idea back in February of 2020. This was before COVID-19. This is before we knew how much Zoom and other technologies were going to be dominating the landscape. And so our presentation doesn't really cover that very much. Also, this is not a technical how-to presentation. Speaking for myself, I am absolute garbage with technology. Russell's a little bit better. I am not. But our goal is to try to share our observations and to try to spark ideas for other teachers. So getting into a little background, I've been teaching in Japan for about 13 years. And there's a lot of times where activities work so well with one class, and then with another class, it just falls flat. And so there's this issue sometimes of, are the students interested? Are they not interested? And there's questions about motivation as well. And so my question is, why do some learners like the activities and some don't? And what are some ways that I can start to increase the motivation for my less motivated learners? And is technology an answer? Is that a cure-all for motivating these younger generations of learners? So looking back at 1985, way back when, Stephen Krashen in The Natural Approach talks a lot about the affective filter. And basically, this is something that Krashen identifies as blocking students' ability to acquire a foreign language. And one way in which to help kind of unblock that is through learner motivation. Getting into the 21st century, found some researchers, Yippen Kwan and Siegel in 2006 and 2015 respectively. They saw that technology-assisted language learning and also using games can be one way to help motivate learners. And then Huang et al. In 2012 talked about using technology in a personalized way in order to motivate students. So talking about this 2015 research from Del Siegel, Siegel was talking a lot about using games and gamification. And Siegel really honed in on one game, Kahoot. I'm not sure if you've been able to use this in your classroom or not, but this is a digital kind of quiz game that has instantaneous results for students on the screen in the classroom. It's accessed real time using smartphones and iPads. And through using Kahoot, Siegel found that the stakes are not too high for the learners. So they're able to relax and the motivation kind of increases because of that kind of relaxed atmosphere. Another thing that he found was that using Kahoot and using other games helps to build motivation by fostering a growth mindset. And Siegel explained this by saying that, because of the instantaneous feedback of things like Kahoot and the concreteness of it, it shows growth as a result of student effort. So this means that when students get a question right in Kahoot, they see and they make an immediate connection that, my study and my efforts has led to this result. And Siegel says that really helps students' motivation. Yippen Kwan in 2016, researchers in Hong Kong looking at technology-assisted language learning. Specifically, they focused on using vocabulary websites. And they found that using these technology-assisted language learning vocabulary websites was more effective for learners than their regular classroom-based activities. Not only that, but they also found that there was a more positive attitude on the side of the students towards learning using these websites as opposed to class activities. That was a really big surprise for me. And then Huang et al. In 2012, these were researchers in Taiwan, and they were looking at personalization through using video games. They were studying about science class, but what they found is that the aspect of personalization in the technology was extremely important, and not only extremely important, extremely effective, both in promoting motivation and also in improving learner achievement. So basically, Huang et al., they found that by using computer games to help teach these science classes, that students improved in their motivation and their scores also improved. So we want to talk about three contexts of learning today. The first one Russell's going to address is elementary school learners. And then I'm going to talk about low motivation, low ability tertiary learners, and then low motivation, moderate ability tertiary learners. So I'm going to kick it over to Russell. Russell?
Thank you very much, Jerry. To just begin with a little bit of background, my name is Russell Fronk, and though I now teach at the tertiary level, before studying at graduate school, I taught at various levels of Japanese education, Japanese English education for 9 years, a large chunk of which was spent at elementary schools. In 2016, I went for my master's at Kansai University, where I focused on the challenges that Japanese elementary school teachers are facing from the current transition from the old course of study to the new one. Now, after the 2-year transition period that started in 2018, the new course of study took effect in elementary schools this year. From this year, foreign language has become a mandatory subject in 5th and 6th year for elementary school students. MEX has provided a number of multimedia resources for schools like chants focused on improving pronunciation and videos aiming to provide examples of English use for students. While all the instances I witnessed of the use of song or chants had fair or good participation response from students, I've heard teachers report that they had problems with students falling asleep during the videos in class. Furthermore, in any mandatory class, there are bound to be a few students who are not motivated. There are ways other than videos and chants to pique the interests of 5th and 6th year students using the kinds of technology implemented in the classroom for the new course of study. For example, through the creative use of smartphones, tablets, computers, and televisions or electronic whiteboards, learning management apps can improve teacher and student motivation through increased communication and personalization of the teaching and learning experience. There is a good selection of class management software on app stores or as PC and Mac downloads directly from their websites. Each management software has different use contexts and strengths, some focusing on communication between teachers, students, and parents, others focusing on assignment organization, and others on class evaluation, each with a smattering of other functionalities. The one I have the most personal experience with is Class Dojo, an application currently used in many schools in the US. An individual teacher can use that app, so there's no need for school-wide adoption. Once a teacher has downloaded the app, he can add students into a virtual classroom space and give each student her own avatar. This avatar works like an account for that student, and the student can use this account to change their avatar's appearance, post assignments, contact the teacher, and check her current score. Teachers can use this application inside and outside of the class for various class management purposes. Today, I will be focusing on experiences that I have had with Class Dojo that can improve students and teachers' motivation. Now, when a teacher starts using Class Dojo for her class, she inputs her student list and each student is represented by an avatar. Each student's Class Dojo representation, which acts as a portfolio of messages and assignments the students post to Class Dojo, can be connected to a smartphone, computer, or tablet device. The student's avatar doesn't need to be connected to another device to be part of your Class Dojo class, but if the guardian connects a device to the Class Dojo avatar, then there is still plenty of extra functionality of which to take advantage, which we will discuss. Now, each student in the class will be randomly assigned a little monster avatar for their name in the Class Dojo space. For students who have access to a device connected to your class, they then have the ability to change their avatar. This gives them a measure of ownership over their little character in the Class Dojo space and helps students to better identify with the monster next to their score. While the monsters are simple in their design, and some teachers in the US have reported high school students being repelled by them, I have used this application at the Japanese tertiary level, and students reported the monsters being kawaii, so that's probably not as big an issue here. Students can use a smartphone connected to class to post assignments. Any assignment a student posts and any comments you make through this will be visible to guardians. Being creative with smartphone functionality may increase students' motivation simply through the sheer novelty of using their guardian's smartphone to take pictures of things to talk about. Perhaps a show and tell of something they can't bring to school, like a pet or a humongous entertainment system that their father uses to play video games on. Students and parents can also use the Class Dojo app to contact their teacher directly. This can be to add comments to students' work or just through direct messaging from parents to teachers. If a student is low motivated, having a connection with the parents is an advantage that primary and secondary level education teachers have over tertiary level teachers. Getting the parents on your side will provide you with a powerful ally. Now, even if the students do not connect a device to their avatar, ClassDojo can be used to keep a tally of students' achievements. With one achievement, you can give a student between 1 to 5 points, and default achievements baked into every classroom include helping others, participating, and working hard, and so on. You can add more achievements or even penalties to your class list to personalize your class experience and shape it into something that is more enjoyable for you to teach. Additionally, these achievements and penalties are stored by class and not pasted across your entire account. So you can customize each class you teach for the unique blend of individuals in each class. Over the course of a class, Class Dojo will keep track of the total of each student's scores, but you may also reset the scores displayed from time to time. If you want to use these scores for monthly, weekly, or even daily competitions for a class that thrives on competition, resetting scores back to 0 will allow you to keep student scores up to this point if you decide to use these scores for, say, a participation grade. I use Class Dojo in my university classes to keep track of students' participation scores. Students are encouraged when they hear their name called and hear the positive chime of an achievement. And in class, when they hear the penalty sound for using Japanese, they tend to get back on task using English. This is especially effective when piping the sound for the web page through the class's sound system. If you carry a portable device when going around to listen to group work, but keep the page open on a laptop or other device connected to a sound system, you will be able to hear these sounds as it syncs almost instantly. This concludes my section about class management software, and I'll turn it over to Jerry to discuss more about tertiary level.
So I've got two contexts that I'm talking about today with low motivation learners. One of them is low motivation, low ability tertiary learners. Uh, just to set the stage for you, I was working in a women's junior college / technical school. And most of the students were studying beauty, hair and makeup. These were not students that were really interested in studying English, but it was a necessity to graduate, and so they had to. And I had about 80 plus students per class. So you can imagine the kind of things that the students would be more interested in. A lot of students were on their smartphones using Line in class. A lot of students were checking out YouTube. Some students were watching Netflix shows with headphones on. Some students were on Instagram Live, sometimes doing Instagram Live with their friends in other classes. I even had some students who were plugging in curling irons and kind of curling their hair in the middle of class. So I say this to kind of paint a picture for you about this low motivation, low ability tertiary learner. Now, these students could not really understand spoken English instruction very much. I had to use Japanese for the majority of the communication with the class. They would respond to my Japanese communication, but it was really hard to keep their attention. So in situations like this, I think it's kind of a tendency of teachers to want to kind of get rid of the smartphones, get rid of the distractions. But in a class of 80 plus students, there was just no way that I was going to be able to police and enforce this kind of policy, especially when students can just kind of hide it under the desk and still do what they're doing. It was just not a realistic thing. So I tried to come at this problem from a different angle, and that was to try to use the technology that the students were actually interested in. And so I noticed that a lot of my students were using, specifically were using Instagram. And so one day in class, I asked the students, okay, please take out your smartphones. And they were kind of taken aback. And so they all took out their smartphones. And I said, okay, how many of you are using Instagram? every hand in the classroom went up. So these students were using Instagram, and I said, okay, go ahead and open up Instagram. And I want you to type in this hashtag, and I put this on the projector. So the students in this class, we were trying to learn food names in English. Again, it's a really low ability, low level class. And I had students find one picture that they liked from this hashtag. And lo and behold, students were actually typing in, hashtag breakfast. They're pulling up pictures of food that they thought looked good. And I said, okay, now with the person next to you, tell them in English, what is this food? And I got a reaction that I had never gotten before. Students were raising their hand. They're like, Sensei, how do I say this in English? They're asking each other, do you know this one in English? How do I say this? It was a tremendous response. If you were there in the class, you would probably be as moved as I was in that. The students had an opportunity to have this lesson personalized by using things that they thought looked visually appealing. And they were able to focus on vocabulary that they wanted to communicate. My other context is with low motivation but moderate ability tertiary students. So this is at the private university. I had 20 or fewer students in the class. And one interesting point was that it was mixed nationalities. So they were not all Japanese students. They could understand English instructions, but they kind of lacked motivation in kind of wanting to go to the next level. They were kind of satisfied with their language ability as it was. And so it's really hard to get them motivated to get to that next level. And so I tried to use a couple of things to get them out of the pattern of kind of rote memorization, to try to get them out of the pattern of being passive in a lecture class like they were used to in high school. And one of the things that I used was actually using Kahoot. And I used Kahoot as a kind of review to review the collocations that we had learned in class. And this did a couple of things. I had them do a team Kahoot, which means that they had one device for 4 students. And they really started working together more. They weren't separating themselves based on nationality lines, but instead were working together. Also, their scores improved for the lexical items that were in the Kahoot. And so that was nice to see them actually improving their scores based on what they had done in class. Additionally, I started to use Google Images a little bit more. When I gave students new lexical items, before they touched their dictionaries, I want them to check it in Google Images. Now, for a word like, for example, truck, as an example, you're going to get a big variety of pictures on Google Images. You'll get like a Ford F-150 pickup truck, and then you might get this big semi-tractor trailer. Some of the interesting things that I saw was that some students were saying things like, well, in my language, these two things are different words. And other students were saying, well, in my language, these are both the same word. This is the same thing. And so we saw students negotiating for meaning based on the picture. This also works surprisingly well for abstract words like knowledge or other kind of abstract ideas. Students were really negotiating for meaning in their small group work. And so what Google Images did is it added another layer of personalization where students could identify with their mother language and how that differentiates from English and the English meaning there as well. And so this personalization aspect of using Google Images and this personalization aspect of using Instagram was quite motivating for these low motivation learners, be they low ability or of moderate ability. And the gamification aspect worked quite well. I've used this in my low ability level classes as well, simply putting Kahoots with just pictures and identifying with the vocabulary in English. And students were really highly motivated by that as well. So in closing, I want to get to this basic statement. So technology is not a cure-all. Especially the current generation, they are digital natives. For them, technology is something that is a given. but technology can be used as a tool to help motivate our low motivation learners. We can do this through things like personalization. Anything that's more personal for the learner will help to motivate them more. Gamification, making things making the atmosphere in the class a little bit more relaxed and less high stakes can really help to motivate some of these low motivated learners. All of these things can really work together to help improve not only learner motivation, but also learner achievement. So I'll stop there. And if we have any questions or anything like that, we've got some time. We'd like to address those. I guess if you can like unmute yourself, or I'm not sure how that works. I'm absolutely garbage with using Zoom and using these technologies. So yeah.
Okay. Can you unshare your screen and we can kind of see each other and talk?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry. Let's stop share. There we go. How's that?
All right, sounds good. All right, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and just ask. Go ahead, we've got 5 minutes. Okay, okay, anyone? Let's see here. All right, well, I have a question.
Sure.
So, all right, so I've heard of this Cahoots thing, okay? Yeah. So like, what is it difficult to get set up or to get?
It's really super easy to get set up. Even a boomer like me, like I've got, zero technological ability, yeah, but able to set up a Kahoot account, make a little quiz game really quick. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's super easy.
So like what kinds of like, is it just like a multiple, so whatever, like I teach a reading class, for example, like what could I do with Kahoots? I mean, like how?
Yeah, with Kahoot, if you're looking at vocabulary, you can do things like put a sentence on the board with a fill in the blank, give the students 4 options. Okay. Especially, I've used it a lot with collocations because I really want students to get in the habit of memorizing these collocations that they see, and that can really, really help. We've got a question in the chat I want to get to. Do you find the students get bored with tech after the novelty wears off? Yes, absolutely. So if you use it for a novelty, the students will absolutely get bored with it. So if you're using technology as a novelty, you're using it incorrectly. If you use it as a tool to help boost personalization or gamification, that can absolutely help with student motivation. Russell, there's a question here for Class Dojo as well. Do you think Class Dojo would come off as too patronizing for adults, or could you imagine any applications?
I did consider this a possibility, and when I used it last year, I used it for second-year tertiary students at my university. That's why I gave them the option to, they could put it on their phone if they decided to, or they could decide not to. And every student actually, without fail, put this on their phone because, and this, you may find different results in your class, but as adults, just give them the option. All of my students did it. They then spent a few minutes just in class, like messing with their avatar, and it was just a chorus of kawaii, kawaii. So, but these are also, again, these are low motivation students, so they're not as interested in English. If I could see the possibility of maybe students who are actually thinking like, I'm here for English, what is this program for? Just let them know I'm using this to keep score of participation. This lets me know what you're doing in class, and it gives me a handy tool. And then possibly give them the option for anyone who's interested. They never have to see it if you don't want them to. Any other applications? Do you mean other applications to use for class management, or other applications for this program? You're welcome.
Okay, well.
I meant class management. Sorry, I couldn't type fast.
No worries.
Other applications for class management, something that is very useful is if you say have a very a class who is very reticent to participate, like you say any volunteers, there's also a randomized function. If nobody raises their hands, be like, okay, well, if there's no volunteers, I'm going to select from the program. And this way you're also not you're not showing any sort of particular preference to call on one student or another, because you say, all right, kids, it's just completely random. You can show it to them, press the button, and it says, okay, all right, Satoshi, it's your turn, right? There are some other applications that you can use for seating plans. Unfortunately, Class Dojo doesn't have that, but playing around with Class Dojo, and there are a few things that even I haven't touched on. So maybe give it a shot and check it out.
Yeah,
you might be able to find some
thank you. I've not even tried yet, so thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this was the basic idea. We really wanted to kind of spark ideas and kind of throw some ideas out at you guys. And there's a lot of things that you can use in your own classrooms, experiment with them, see how they work, and see how they can help to motivate your less motivated students. We're out of time for today, but if you guys have any questions, we've got a breakout room that's Jerry is going to post in the chat.
Yeah, I've just posted a link to the Hangouts room. So if you guys haven't done this yet, it's a special space designed just for this purpose, to go and mingle with the presenters and talk at length as long as you want. Just click on that link in the chat. You'll go to the room, talk to the room host, and find the room in which this presentation will be in, a breakout room. And then you can go into the room and continue talking. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you guys, all your hard work, and you give us a lot of ideas, and I'll be thinking about this stuff for sure. Appreciate it. Hey, everyone, could you unmute and say thank you? Just clap.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your questions. See you.
See you all soon. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.